So we begin with a little theological reflection on end of life. And I want to start with a passage from St. Paul's letter to the Philippians. Paul says, "With full courage, now as always, Christ will be honored in my body, whether by life or by death. For to me to live is Christ, and to die is gain. If it is to be life in the flesh, that means fruitful labor for me. Yet which I shall choose I cannot tell. I am hard pressed between the two. My desire is to depart and be with Christ, for that is far better, but to remain in the flesh is more necessary on your account. Convinced of this, I know that I shall remain and continue with you all for your progress and joy in the faith, so that in me you may have ample cause to glory in Christ Jesus." So, one of the principles in Catholic theology is we call it the Catholic both and. That two things which might seem to be in contradiction can both be true at the same time. Often the Catholic Church is criticized from two different sides of the spectrum. People have two different perspectives. We're criticized for not going far enough this way, and we're criticized for not going far enough this way. So if we find ourselves in the middle, that often means we're in the right spot. Not in the sense of being mediocre or lukewarm. God wants us to have zeal and enthusiasm, but life is complicated, and often when we go to an extreme, one way or the other, we miss the mark. Right? Heresy is taking the truth and taking it too far. It's neglecting other aspects of the truth. So St. Paul speaks in that vein. He says, it is both good to live, and it is also good to die so that you can live in the next life. Both are true. He said, it is good to be here on earth, even though we have good days and bad days, and yet there's a purpose to it, there's an intent. God has worked for us. We're not here at random. We're part of a plan. We're not impersonal. We're known by God individually by name. So everything we experience has a purpose if we offer to God. Good things and bad things. But it is also true that we really look forward to the next life. No one has a greater theology and explanation of life after death than the Catholic faith. All religions are seeking to understand it and discuss it, but most have a kind of a vague sense. Ours is only clear because we believe Jesus is God and He came down to earth and told us. He made it clear. It's not because we're smarter, it's just we have access to some information. Of course, we're not to keep it to ourselves, we'll just spread it, tell others. It's not a secret. So we look forward to the next life. No one looks forward to it more than Catholics, Christians, to be with Christ. But we also recognize the importance of our time here. And so we're kind of stuck in the middle with like Paul. Which way should I go? When days are bad, I'm like, come on, God, I'm ready. You can take me today. When days are good, I'm like, well, no real hurry sometime in the future. I think we all have that up and down. I remember when I was in college students, teenagers can be so dramatic. And I had an exam, and I hadn't really studied enough. And it was raining, and I was riding my bike in the rain, and I was soaked, and I'm late for the exam, and I'm not sure I'm going to pass it. And I'm running across the street, and I'm like, God, if a car hits me right now, that's just fine. I'm ready. This stinks. So we all have those fluctuations, and we have to realize that. Both ends. So that's one principle. The second principle is love. No other religion in the world says God is love. That's a profound statement. And the two commandments they gave us are love your neighbor and love God. So life is about serving and giving, not taking. It's not about me, it's about others. To the extent that I give, my life has meaning and fulfillment. And as Catholics, when we care for those who are sick, we try to do it with love. There are a lot of great medical institutions out there trying to help the sick, trying to cure, but we bring a little more love to it. At least, hopefully we do. That's the point of Catholic healthcare. So with charity. I grew up, my mother is a nurse, my sister's a nurse, so we grew up hearing them talk shop at the dinner table. Sometimes I had to cut them off, they're getting a little too graphic before the main course. And I do serve as Catholic Medical Association with physicians and nurses and medical students. So we're learning about some of the struggles and challenges and joys of Catholic healthcare. So So the both and the love and with the both and, one way we can look at it too is we both recognize that death is inevitable. It's okay to die. I can say with confidence that in 90 years, well, at least 100 years, everyone in this room will be dead. When you hear it that way, it's a little sobering, isn't it? In 100 years, no one in this room will be alive. So we can both accept the inevitability of it and refuse to be the cause of it. That's the difference. See, we accept the fact that we're going to die, and it's okay. We actually look forward to the other side, but we refuse to be the cause of it because we recognize there's a creator who has authority over life and death, and we're creatures. Anyone who believes in God tacitly accepts that relationship, and the majority of the world, the vast majority of the world believes in God. We call them different names, we understand them. We all believe there is some kind of creator and we're a creature. And if that's the case, we don't have authority over life and death. That's like the one thing we don't have authority over properly. We can do it. We have the power, but not the proper authority. So we accept the inevitability of that. Sometimes we look forward to it, but we refuse to be the cause. There's Peter Kreeft, a Christian writer, he's Anglican, very faithful man. He says, you only have dreams when someone's chasing you, and maybe they're going to kill you, if the murderer's coming after you. That's a nightmare, right? He says, the nightmare when someone is trying to take your life. He says, the greater nightmare is if you were the murderer. Wouldn't that be scary? Like, what is wrong with that picture? We fear death, but it's even worse to be the cause of death. And that's what society is grappling with right now. In the state of Maryland, probably they're going to propose a law in January giving people the legal right to take their own life and giving others the legal right to assist them. Now, anyone can take their life tonight if they want. They have the power. And even if it's illegal, what are you going to do after they've taken their life? I mean, we only make it illegal to emphasize that it's not a good thing, try to encourage people not to do it, but we have the anyone could do it at any time. So we already have the power, but as a society, we really want to give people the authority. Not to accept death, but to be the cause of death. So that's what we're grappling with, and that's why this panel, that's the inspiration behind this panel from Archbishop Gloria. So, just a few points to flesh out, and the other speakers will continue to flesh it out. We'll have an opportunity for question and answers afterwards as well. This is not a Catholic distinction that we shouldn't be the cause of death. This isn't even a Christian idea. This is intrinsic to medicine. You know, if assisted suicide is permitted, that means there has to be someone to assist. Who's that person going to be? And if it becomes normative, then not only will we permit people, but then we start to force people. If you have a right to take your life, then someone's got to help you do it. Medicine has always said, no, that's not our realm. That's not our realm. We have to make a very clear distinction. We seek to help life. Now, when I talk to physicians and nurses or medical students, I say, you know what? Ultimately, you all fail. Every single patient that you treat will die. So the whole point of medicine is not to prevent death, because ultimately every patient will die. But the point of medicine is to care for the person, to ease their suffering, to encourage them, to let them know somebody cares, to walk with them. A large part of medicine is preparing people for death. At a certain point, you recognize it's inevitable. Hospice care, which we'll hear about in a moment. This new branch of medicine specifically to walk with people. Before Christ was born, there was a great Greek physician. His name was Hippocrates. Many of you have heard of him. And he wrote an oath that physicians were encouraged to take. It just became normative. Medical schools, some continue to take this oath. It was normative 40 years ago. It's a little less normative today. But it goes back over 2,000 years before Christ. This is not a Christian idea. This is pagan Greece. He said, with regard to healing the sick, I will take care that they suffer no hurt or damage, nor shall any man's entreaty prevail upon me to administer poison to anyone, nor will I counsel any man to do so. Nor shall any man's entreaty prevail upon me. Even if a man asks or a woman asks me to do this, they entreat me, they beg me to do it because they're suffering, I will not administer poison to them. Because if I do that, I'm no longer the caretaker. I am now the cause of death. Death will come. We try to slow it. We try to ease the pain in anticipation of it. Right? So with regard to healing the sick, I will make sure they suffer no hurt or death. I won't hurt them. I will try to help them. But also, even if they beg me to, I won't assist their suicide. Understanding their intention. They don't want to die. They just don't want to suffer. None of us do, right? We don't like it. We don't have to like it. The Catholic Church does not like suffering. That's a misconception, too. Jesus suffered to say, I understand your suffering, but he didn't say it's good. He didn't say this is fun on the cross. St. John Newman has one of the most impressive crucifixes. It's huge. It's powerful. But it's not fun. No one says it's fun. No one says we're supposed to like it. We try to avoid it. We try to ease it. We do recognize there's a meaning to it. Jesus' suffering, we know that it was very redemptive to make up for sin, and somehow ours can be linked in prayer. But Hippocrates said, don't go there. Don't go there as a profession. Don't go there as a society. That's a fundamental decision point. Just say, now certain people have authority to choose death. Well, who are those certain people, and what are the proper circumstances? Well, people that are really, really sick. Well, what if they're really, really sick, but not really, really, really sick? Well, people who are really old. Well, how old is really, really old? Well, people who don't have, people depending upon them, right? If you're a father, you have young children, you should do everything you can to keep living. Well, how old, do your dependents have to be? 16 and a half, 18 and a half, 25? There are plenty of children living at home at age 30. Come on. So, who was the Wizard of Oz that has this crystal ball and punches in all these different circumstances and just how extreme is the pain and how lonely is the person where if their death won't bother anyone, no one will miss them, or how old are they, and who is God? Well, we know who God is, the Father, but we're not. So to make someone on earth the Wizard of Oz is very scary. That's a fundamental decision. That society can make that decision. We can pass the law. In a sense, there's no turning back. Once you say some have the authority to help choose death, there's really no way to turn it back. And when you say they can assist others to die, so you put it in someone else's hands, not even just the person himself. Well, what if that person goes into a coma, and the other person has to decide, even without the participation of the first person, and then this person? It's a fundamental decision point for society. So, as Christians, we're reflecting on our own mortality and how to deal with it, but also we have a voice in society. Right? This is Mary's land, right? This is Mary's land. I want to bring the perspective of Mary and Jesus and Joseph to this discussion in our city. So the bishops of Maryland did develop this excellent document, Comfort and Consolation for the Dying. It came out a few years ago. It is recently being edited and republished, as Linda said, and it will be coming out, I think, next week or the next week or two. So I encourage you can download it on the internet, get copies. The document has different reflections on death and dying, but at the very end, it just has a few points, and I just want to go through them. I think my time is up, but I'll reference here. There are some very good points in the document that flesh out kind of the Catholic perspective, right? We do engage this intellectually. We're not afraid of the questions. Some of those questions will be fleshed out by the other speakers. We don't like suffering, but we understand that even in difficult circumstances, there can be meaning to it. Thank you so much.